Ji-hoon pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship. The space station looked like a giant metal ring floating in the darkness. Stars twinkled all around it, but he could only think about what waited inside. "Nervous?" asked Hannah, sitting beside him. She was his boss and the leader of their team. "A little," Ji-hoon said. He wiped his sweaty hands on his pants. "We're about to meet aliens for the first time in human history." Hannah nodded. "Remember?" What the files said. The Valkyrie looked scary. Very scary. But we need this peace treaty. Ji-hoon had read those files many times. The Valkyrie were tall, covered in scales, and had claws. The reports called them living weapons and nightmare creatures, but Ji-hoon was a scientist who studied alien life. He was more curious than afraid. The transport ship docked with the station. Ji-hoon picked up his bag and followed Hannah and the other humans down a long hallway. The station was cold and quiet. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. "This place gives me the creeps," whispered Tom, one of the security guards. "Stay calm," Hannah said. "We represent all of humanity." Today, they reached a large room with a round table in the center. The humans sat on one side. Ji-hoon put his translator device in his ear and waited. His heart was beating fast. "They're coming," said Lisa, another diplomat. She was looking at her tablet. 3 of them. The door on the other side of the room opened with a soft hiss. Ji-hoon held his breath. The first Valkyrie walked in, and Tom actually stepped backward. She was huge, at least 8 feet tall. Her body was covered in dark scales that seemed to shine under the lights. Blue markings glowed softly on her arms and face like living tattoos. Her eyes were large and golden, like a cat's eyes, but much bigger. When she moved, Ji-hoon could see muscles under her scales. But what made everyone tense up were her hands. Each finger ended in a sharp claw, currently folded back, but clearly visible. She could probably cut through metal with those claws. 2 more Valkyrie followed her. One was even bigger, with red markings instead of blue. The other was smaller, but still taller than any human. The female with blue markings stepped forward. She opened her mouth to speak, and Ji-hoon saw rows of sharp teeth. Several humans moved their hands toward their weapons. "I am Kyra of the Valkyrie." "Confederation," she said. Her voice was deep but clear. The translator in Ji-hoon's ear worked perfectly. "We come to discuss peace between our peoples." "Welcome," Hannah said, though her voice shook a little. "I am Commander Hannah, representing Earth." Kyra nodded and moved toward the table. As she walked, her claws made small clicking sounds on the floor. She sat down carefully, and Ji-hoon noticed something strange. She was trying to make herself look smaller. She pulled her arms close to her body and kept her claws folded. "Our leaders sent us to talk about the border dispute," Kyra continued. "We want to avoid war." "So do we," Hannah replied. "Perhaps we can find a solution that works for everyone." The meeting started well. Both sides talked about their planets and trade routes. But then Kyra made a gesture with her hand, and her claws suddenly extended. They were 6 inches long and looked razor sharp. Tom and the other guards immediately reached for their guns. "Weapons." Tom shouted. "No," Kyra said quickly, pulling her hand back. "I apologize. It was accident. I was only trying to point at the map." But the damage was done. The humans were all staring at her claws with fear. Some had half-drawn their weapons. The other Valkyrie stood up, their own claws extending in response to the threat. "Please," Kyra said. Her voice sounded upset. "I did not mean to frighten you. My claws, they extend when I am nervous." Ji-hoon watched her face. She looked embarrassed and sad, not angry or dangerous. While everyone else saw a monster with weapons for hands, he saw someone who was trying very hard not to scare them. "It's okay," Ji-hoon said, standing up. She didn't mean it. Everyone turned to look at him. Tom shook his head. Tuan, get back. Those things could kill you in seconds. But Ji-hoon walked toward Kira instead. She watched him with her big golden eyes, looking surprised. I'm sorry, Ji-hoon said to her in her own language. He had studied Velkari words for months. My people are afraid because you are new to us. Kyra's eyes went wide. You speak our language. A little Ji-hoon said, switching back to English so the others could understand. I've been studying your culture. I know you didn't mean to threaten us. Kyra slowly folded her claws back. I'll thank you for understanding. In my culture, extended claws show emotion, not aggression. But I see now that it frightens your people. We can learn from each other, Ji-hoon said. That's why we're here, right? The tension in the room began to decrease. Hannah gestured for everyone to sit back down. Let's continue, she said. But just. As they were about to resume talking, red lights started flashing on the walls. A computer voice announced, Warning. Life support malfunction in sections C through F. All personnel must evacuate to emergency quarters immediately. What does that mean? Asked Drek. The large Velkari with red markings. It means we're stuck here until they fix it, Hannah said, checking her tablet. The repair crew says it will take at least 2 days. 2 days? Tom asked. Where are we supposed to sleep? Emergency quarters, Hannah replied. But there are only 4 rooms available. We'll have to share. Everyone looked uncomfortable. The humans didn't want to sleep near the Velkari, and the Velkari seemed to understand this. We can sleep in the cargo bay, Kyra offered. We do not want to make your people uncomfortable. No, Ji-hoon said quickly. That's not fair. We should share the rooms properly. Hannah looked at him like he was crazy. Ji-hoon, I don't think I'll room with Kyra, Ji-hoon said. I'm the xenobiologist. If there are any problems, I can handle them. The room went very quiet. Kyra stared at him with her golden eyes. She looked shocked. You would share a room with me, she asked. Even though my appearance frightens your people. You don't frighten me, Ji-hoon said simply. You interest me. And that was how Ji-hoon found himself walking down the corridor toward emergency quarters with an 8-foot-tall alien warrior, wondering what he had just gotten himself into. Ji-hoon stood outside the emergency quarters holding his bag. The door was gray metal with the number 7 painted on it. Behind that door was Kyra, and he had no idea what to expect. He pressed the button, and the door slid open. The room was small. Just 2 narrow beds, a tiny table, and a bathroom. Kyra was sitting on the far bed, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, and her glowing blue markings were very dim. Hello, Ji-hoon said, stepping inside. The door closed behind him. I am sorry, Kyra said quietly. I tried to tell Commander Hannah that I should sleep somewhere else. I know humans find my kind ... disturbing. Ji-hoon put his bag on the other bed. Why do you think that? Kyra looked at him with surprise. 'Cause I am large and have claws and scales. Because I look like the monsters from your stories. We don't have monsters that look like you in our stories, Ji-hoon said. Besides, I think your scales are interesting. How do they work? You want to know about my scales? Kira asked. She seemed confused. I'm a scientist, Ji-hoon explained. I study how different life forms adapt to their worlds. Your people evolved on a planet with different conditions than Earth, right? Kyra nodded slowly. Our world has less light and more radiation. The scales protect us, and the markings help us see each other in the dark. That's amazing, Ji-hoon said. Can you control the brightness of your markings? For the first time, Kyra's markings got a little brighter. Yes, they show emotion and help with communication. Right now, they are dim because I am ... nervous. You don't need to be nervous around me, Ji-hoon said. He sat on his bed facing her. I volunteered to room with you, remember? But why? Kyra asked. Your people seemed afraid of me in the meeting. I accidentally showed my claws, and everyone reached for weapons. Ji-hoon thought about this. My people are afraid of things they don't understand. But I want to understand. That's different. Kyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said, in my culture, I am considered ... unpleasant to look at, even by other Velkari. Really? Ji-hoon asked. Why? I am too large, even for a female warrior. My markings are too bright. My claws are longer than normal. She looked down at her hands. The council sent me on this mission because they thought my frightening appearance would make humans take us seriously. Well, you're definitely impressive, Ji-hoon said, but not in a bad way. Kira looked at him carefully. You are strange for a human. I get that a lot, Ji-hoon said with a smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Kyra stood up to get something from her bag. As she moved, she tried to stay far from Ji-hoon, but the room was small. She pressed herself against the wall and reached for her bag on the shelf. There was a sharp metal edge sticking out from the wall. As Kyra tried to avoid taking up space, her arm scraped against it. She made a small sound of pain. Are you hurt? Ji-hoon asked, standing up. It is nothing, Kyra said, but Ji-hoon could see blue blood on her scales. Let me look at it, Ji-hoon said. I have medical training. No, Kira started to say, but Ji-hoon was already getting his medical kit. Sit down, he said gently. Please. Kyra sat on her bed, holding her injured arm. Ji-hoon sat beside her, and she tensed up. I won't hurt you, Ji-hoon said. Can you show me the cut? Slowly, Kyra held out her arm. The cut wasn't deep, but it was bleeding. Ji-hoon carefully cleaned it with antiseptic. Does this hurt? He asked as he worked. A little, Kyra said. She was watching his face. You are not afraid to touch me. Why would I be afraid? Ji-hoon asked, putting a bandage on the cut. You're just a person who happens to be from another planet. Kyra stared at him. No one has ever said that to me before. What do you mean? Even among my own people, I am seen as a weapon first, a person second. They call me the Blade or the Hunter, but you see me as a person. Of course, Ji-hoon said. You have thoughts and feelings. You get nervous and hurt and embarrassed. How are you not a person? Kyra's markings grew brighter. Your species is very strange. Strange good or strange bad? Ji-hoon asked. I am not sure yet, Kyra said. But she was almost smiling. Later that evening, they were both reading on their beds. Ji-hoon was studying Velkari culture on his tablet, and Kyra was reading something in her own language. What are you reading? Ji-hoon asked. Poetry, Kyra said. 'Tis about the old days on our homeworld, before we had cities. Your people write poetry? Ji-hoon asked with interest. Yes. Does that surprise you? A little, Ji-hoon admitted. The reports made your people sound like they only cared about fighting. We are warriors, but we are also philosophers and artists, Kyra said. A good warrior must understand beauty as well as strength. Can you translate some for me, Ji-hoon asked. Kyra thought for a moment, then said, Under the silver moon's light, the crystal flowers sing their ancient song, while the wind carries memories of those who walked before us. That's beautiful, Ji-hoon said. You think so? Kyra asked. Most humans would probably find our poetry too alien. Different doesn't mean bad, Ji-hoon said. It just means interesting. As the night went on, the temperature in the room began to drop. The emergency power didn't include full heating, and soon Ji-hoon was shivering under his thin blanket. Are you cold? Kyra asked. Akun said, though his teeth were starting to chatter. Kyra looked worried. Akur looked worried. Valkyrie run warmer than humans. Our body temperature is higher because of our homeworld's climate. Ji-hoon pulled his blanket tighter, but it didn't help much. The room was getting colder. I could. My people, we share body heat when it is cold, for survival. But I understand if the idea frightens you. Ji-hoon looked at her. She was sitting on her bed, her golden eyes reflecting. Concern, her blue markings were pulsing softly with what he was learning meant worry. You would do that, he asked, even though we just met. You helped me when I was hurt, Kyra said. You treated me like a person, not a monster. It is the least I can do. Ji-hoon thought about it. The room was definitely getting colder, and his human body wasn't handling it well. But more than that, he realized he trusted her. Okay, he said. If you don't mind. Kira looked surprised. You are not afraid, should I be? Ji-hoon asked. No, Kyra said quickly. I would never hurt you. I just... ... No one has ever trusted me like this before. She moved over to make room on her bed. Come here. I promise you will be safe. Ji-hoon got up and walked over to her bed. As he got closer, he could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Yes, Ji-hoon said. Thank you. As Kyra's natural warmth surrounded him, Ji-hoon realized something important. For the first time since arriving at the station, he felt completely safe. Not because he was with another human, but because he was with someone who cared enough to help him, no matter how different they were from each other. Ji-hoon woke up slowly. He was warm and comfortable, which was strange because he remembered being very cold. Then he realized why he was warm. He was lying next to Kyra, her arm gently around him. For a moment, he felt panic. But then he looked at her face. Even sleeping, she looked peaceful, not scary. Her blue markings glowed softly in the dim room like tiny stars. She was making a quiet humming sound, almost like singing. Ji-hoon tried to move without waking her, but her eyes opened. Immediately. I am sorry, Kyra said quickly, pulling her arm away. I did not mean to hold you. It is instinct for my people to protect others while they sleep. It's okay, Ji-hoon said. I slept really well. Thank you for keeping me warm. Kyra looked surprised. You are not upset. Why would I be upset? Ji-hoon asked. You helped me, cuz. I am ... double quotes Kyra started to say, then stopped. Because you're what? Ji-hoon asked. Because I am a monster, Kyra said quietly. That is what everyone sees when they look at me. Ji-hoon sat up and looked at her carefully. What do you see when you look in a mirror? Something frightening, Kyra said. Something that makes others afraid. Well, you're wrong, Ji-hoon said. When I look at you, I see someone who gave up her own comfort to help a stranger stay warm. I see someone who reads poetry and cares about not scaring people. That's not a monster. Kyra's markings grew brighter. You really mean that? Yes, Ji-hoon said. And what was that humming sound? You were making while you slept. Kyra looked embarrassed. That is something all Velkari do. We hum to keep away bad dreams. I hope it did not disturb you. It was beautiful, Ji-hoon said, like a lullaby. They got up and had breakfast from their emergency food packs. Kyra was still trying to make herself small, sitting in the corner, and eating quietly. You don't have to hide from me, Ji-hoon said. This is your room too. I take up so much space, Kyra said. I do not want to make you uncomfortable. You're not making me uncomfortable, Ji-hoon said. But you look uncomfortable. Why don't you sit at the table? Kyra hesitated, then moved to the small table. She was so tall that her knees didn't fit under it properly. Tell me about your homeworld, Ji-hoon said. What's it like? Kyra's eyes brightened. It is beautiful. We have crystal forests that sing in the wind. The sky is purple, and we have 3 moons. At night, everything glows. It sounds amazing, Ji-hoon said. Do you miss it? Yes, Kyra said. But I wanted to see other worlds, other peoples. I wanted to learn. Is that unusual for a Velkhari warrior? Very unusual, Kyra said. Most warriors only care about strength and honor. They think curiosity makes you weak. I don't think curiosity makes you weak, Ji-hoon said. I think it makes you brave. How? Kyra asked. Because you have to be brave to want to learn new things. It's scary to discover that everything you thought you knew might be wrong. Kyra nodded slowly. Yes, it is scary. But also exciting. They spent the morning talking about their worlds, their cultures, and their dreams. Ji-hoon learned that Kyra loved to study ancient history and wanted to become a teacher someday. Kyra learned that Ji-hoon had always felt different from other humans because he cared more about understanding aliens than about human achievements. Your people must be proud of you, Kyra said. You are representing your entire species. Not really, Ji-hoon said. Most humans think I'm weird for wanting to study alien life. They think I should focus on human problems instead. I understand, Kyra said. My people think I am too soft to be a proper warrior. They say I think too much and fight too little. Maybe. That's why we get along, Ji-hoon said. We're both outcasts. Around midday, there was a knock on their door. Ji-hoon opened it to find Tom, the security guard. How are you doing in there? Tom asked, looking worried. That thing hasn't hurt you, has it? Her name is Kyra, Ji-hoon said firmly. And no, she hasn't hurt me. We're getting along fine. Tom looked past Ji-hoon at Kyra, who had moved back to the corner when the door opened. Just be careful, okay? Those claws could cut you in half. After Tom left, Ji-hoon turned to Kyra. She looked sad. He's afraid of me, she said. He's just being protective, Ji-hoon said. Humans are like that with their friends. Are we friends? Kyra asked. I'd like to be, Ji-hoon said. If you want. Kaya have never had a friend from another species before, Kyra said. I would like that very much. That afternoon, the heating system completely broke down. The room became so cold that Ji-hoon could see his breath. He put on all his clothes, but he was still shivering. This is too cold for humans, Kyra said. Looking worried? You could get sick. I'll be okay, Ji-hoon said, but his teeth were chattering so hard he could barely speak. No, Kyra said. You will not be okay. Come here. She patted the bed beside her. Ji-hoon didn't hesitate this time. He climbed onto the bed, and Kyra wrapped her arms around him. Her body heat was like a warm blanket. Better, she asked. Much. Better, Ji-hoon said. Thank you. In my culture, we believe that sharing warmth creates a bond between people, Kyra said. Oh shit. It means we trust each other completely. Do you trust me? Ji-hoon asked. Yes, Kyra said without hesitation. Do you trust me? Yes, Ji-hoon said. Even though we've only known each other for 2 days? Sometimes 2 days is enough, Kyra said. They lay together in the warm circle of her arms. Ji-hoon could feel her heartbeat, slow and steady. Her scales were surprisingly soft, like smooth leather. Kira, Ji-hoon said. Yes, what you said about being frightening. You're wrong. You're one of the kindest people I've ever met. Kyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, No one has ever called me kind before. Well, they should have, Ji-hoon said, because it's true. Ji-hoon, yes. Thank you for not being afraid of me. Thank you for not giving me a reason to be afraid. As evening came, they talked about their families, their hopes for the future, and their fears. Ji-hoon learned that Kyra had always dreamed of traveling to other worlds, but never thought it would be possible. Kyra learned that Ji-hoon had studied her language because he hoped that someday humans and Velkhari could be friends. It looks like your dream is coming true, Kyra said. Both our dreams are coming true, Ji-hoon replied, when they finally fell asleep. Kyra's humming filled the room like a gentle song. Ji-hoon had never felt so safe and peaceful. He realized that somewhere in the last 2 days, his fear of the unknown had turned into fascination. And his fascination had turned into something deeper. He was beginning to care about Kyra, not as an alien specimen to study, but as a person who had become important to him. And from the way she held him protectively while she slept, he thought. Maybe she felt the same way. Outside their room, the space station was cold and empty. But inside, two beings from different worlds had found warmth in each other's company. And that warmth was growing into something that neither of them had expected. When they first met, the third morning started with loud knocking on their door. Ji-hoon opened it to find Hannah standing outside with a worried expression. "Ji-hoon, we need to talk," she said, looking past him at Kyra privately. "Whatever you want to say, you can." "Say it in front of Kyra," Ji-hoon replied. "This is about Kyra," Hannah said. "Come outside now." Ji-hoon looked back at Kyra, who nodded sadly. "Go. I understand." In the hallway, Hannah crossed her arms. "What's going on in there, Ji-hoon?" "What you mean?" Ji-hoon asked. "Tom says you've been sleeping in the same bed with that creature." "Her name is Kyra," Ji-hoon said firmly. "And yes, we've been sharing warmth because the heating is broken. It's called survival. It's called dangerous," Hannah said. "She could kill you in your sleep." "She won't," Ji-hoon said. "She's not what you think she is. She's a predator, Ji-hoon. Those claws, those teeth, she's built for killing. She's built for surviving on her home world," Ji-hoon said. "Just like we're built for surviving on Earth. That doesn't make her evil." Hannah shook her head. "You're getting too close to her. It's affecting your judgment." "My judgment is fine," Ji-hoon said. "Maybe yours is the problem." Before Hannah could respond, they heard voices from the other direction. Drac, the large Valkyrie, was talking to Kyra near the dining area. "You bring shame to our people," Drac was saying in their language. "Sleeping with the weak humans like a pet." "I am helping him survive," Kyra replied. "It is the honorable thing to do." "Honorable," Drac laughed. "You should be making them fear us, not making friends with them. The council sent you here to show our strength." "Maybe the council was wrong," Kyra said quietly. Drac's red markings flared bright with anger. "You forget yourself, Kyra. These humans are beneath us. They are small and weak and have no claws or strength. They have other kinds of strength," Kyra said. "Intelligence, curiosity, kindness, weakness," Drac corrected. "You have spent too much time with the human. You are thinking like them now." Ji-hoon didn't understand all the words, but he could tell Kyra was being criticized. He walked over to them. "Is there a problem?" he asked. Drac looked down at him with disgust. "The problem is that my warrior sister has forgotten her place because of you." "I haven't forgotten anything," Kyra said. "I have learned something new." "What have you learned?" Drac asked mockingly. "I have learned that being feared is not the same as being respected," Kyra said. "Fear makes others want to fight you or run from you. Respect makes them want to work with you." Drac's claws extended. "You sound like a human now." "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Kyra said calmly. Drac looked like he wanted to argue more, but other people were watching. He folded his claws and walked away, muttering in his own language. "What was that about?" Ji-hoon asked. "He thinks I am becoming too soft," Kyra said. "To human? Is that bad?" Kyra thought about it. "I do not know, but I know I like the person I am becoming." They walked back toward their room, but Kyra stopped at the observation window. She looked out at the stars with a sad expression. "What's wrong?" Ji-hoon asked. "I've been thinking," Kyra said. "When the repairs are finished, we will go back to our ships, back to our own people. This will end." Ji-hoon felt his heart sink. He hadn't thought about that. Maybe it doesn't have to end. "How can it not end?" Kyra asked. "Your people see me as a monster. My people see me as a traitor for caring about humans. Not all of our people think that way, Ji-hoon said. Enough of them do, Kyra replied. Look at your commander, Hannah. Look at my brother, Warrior Drak. They want us to stay separate. But we don't want to stay separate, Ji-hoon said. That should count for something. Kyra turned to face him. Should it? What future could we have? You would never be safe on my world, and I would never be welcome on yours. Ji-hoon didn't have an answer for that, but he knew he didn't want to lose her friendship. Come on, he said. Let's go back to our room. I want to show you something. In their quarters, Ji-hoon got out his tablet and showed Kyra pictures of Earth. She was fascinated by the blue oceans and green forests. It's so bright, she said, and so much water. Your world sounds beautiful too, Ji-hoon said, with the crystal forests and purple sky. Would you like to see it? Kyra asked. More than anything, Ji-hoon said honestly. Kyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I have something to show you, but you must promise not to laugh. I promise, Ji-hoon said. Kyra stood up and took a deep breath. Then she did something amazing. The blue markings on her skin began to change. Instead of just glowing softly, they started to move and shift, creating patterns across her scales. First, they formed the shape of flowers blooming, then stars twinkling in the sky, then waves moving across water. It was like watching living art painted with light. This is called scale singing, Kyra said softly. It is how my people create art. We paint with our own bodies. Aqua, Ji-hoon watched in wonder as the patterns changed from simple shapes to complex designs. The flowers became a garden. The stars became constellations. The waves became an ocean storm. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, Ji-hoon whispered. Really? Kyra asked. You do not think it is strange? It's incredible, Ji-hoon said. You're an artist, a living, breathing artist. Kyra's markings shifted to show happiness, bright dancing patterns that looked like laughter made of light. No one has ever watched me scale sing before, she said. My people think it is a waste of time. They say warriors should not create pretty pictures. They're wrong, Ji-hoon said. This is amazing. You're amazing. For the first time since he'd met her, Kyra stood up straight. She didn't try to make herself smaller or hide in corners. Her markings glowed bright and proud. You make me feel like I am worth something, she said. You are worth something, Ji-hoon replied. You're worth everything. They spent the rest of the day talking about art, about dreams, about what they wanted to do with their lives. Kyra showed him more scale-singing patterns, each one more beautiful than the last. Ji-hoon told her about human music and poetry and painting. Our peoples have so much in common, Kyra said. We both create beauty. We both love learning. We both dream of exploring the stars. Then why can't we be friends? Ji-hoon asked. Because fear is stronger than understanding, Kyra said sadly. At least, it has been so far. Maybe we can change that, Ji-hoon said. How? Kyra asked. I don't know yet, Ji-hoon admitted. But I know I don't want to give up. That night, as they lay together sharing warmth, Kyra's scale singing created gentle patterns across her skin. It was like sleeping under a sky full of moving stars. Ji-hoon, she said softly. Yes. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that these 3 days have been the happiest of my life. Mine too, Ji-hoon said. And I don't think our story ends tomorrow. What makes you so sure? Kyra asked. Because some connections are too strong to break, Ji-hoon said. No matter what our people think. As Kyra's humming filled the room and her markings painted dreams across her skin, Ji-hoon realized that he had found something he hadn't even known he was looking for. Not just friendship with an alien, but understanding with someone who saw the universe the way he did. Tomorrow would bring challenges. But tonight, They had each other, and that felt like enough to build a future on. The morning of the fourth day brought good news and bad news. The good news was that the repairs were almost finished. The bad news was that both delegations would be leaving soon. Ji-hoon woke up to find Kyra already sitting by the window, looking sad. Her markings were dim and barely glowing. "The ships will be here in a few hours," she said without turning around. "I know," Ji-hoon said, sitting beside her. "Okay, but this doesn't have to be goodbye forever, doesn't it?" Kyra asked. "Your people think I'm dangerous. My people think I'm a traitor. What chance do we have?" Before Ji-hoon could answer, there was a knock at the door. It was Hannah. "Final meeting in 1 hour," she said. "Both sides need to finish the peace talks before we leave." "We'll be there," Ji-hoon said. After Hannah left, Kyra stood up. "Should prepare for the meeting. I need to be a proper Valkyrie warrior again." "What do you mean?" Ji-hoon asked. I need to stop being the person you helped me become," Kyra said sadly. "I need to go back to being scary and intimidating." "No," Ji-hoon said firmly. "Don't do that." "Have to," Kyra said. "It's what my people expect." "But it's not who you are," Ji-hoon argued. "You're kind and artistic and intelligent. Don't hide that." "And what good will it do?" Kyra asked. "My people won't respect me if I'm soft. Your people won't trust me if I'm scary. I can't win." Ji-hoon thought for a moment. Then he had an idea. "What if you didn't have to choose?" He said. "What if you could be both?" "What do you mean?" What if you showed everyone that being kind doesn't make you weak? What if you proved that understanding each other makes us all stronger?" Kyra looked confused. "Trust me," Ji-hoon said. "Come to the meeting as yourself, the real you. Let me handle the rest." An hour later, everyone gathered in the main meeting room. The humans sat on one side, the Valkyrie on the other. The tension was thick. Commander Hannah started speaking. "We've had 3 days to think about this peace treaty. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we can trust each other enough to make it work." Drac nodded. "Humans are too weak and unpredictable." "How? Can we make agreements with people who fear our very appearance? And how can we trust people who think showing claws is normal conversation?" Tom added. Ji-hoon looked around the room. Everyone seemed ready to give up. But then he looked at Kyra, who was sitting straight and proud, not trying to hide anymore. "May I say something?" Ji-hoon asked. "Ji-hoon, this isn't the time," Hannah warned. "Actually, it is exactly the time," Ji-hoon said, standing up. "Because I think everyone here is making the same mistake." "What mistake?" Drac asked. "You're all judging each other by appearance instead of actions," Ji-hoon said. "You see claws and scales and think monster. You see small humans and think weakness, but you're all wrong." He walked to the center of the room. "Kyra, would you stand up, please?" Kyra hesitated, then stood. Her full height made several humans step back. "Look at her," Ji-hoon said to his fellow humans. "What do you see?" "A predator," Tom said. "Claws that could kill us," Lisa added. "Now let me tell you what I see," Ji-hoon said. "I see someone who gave up her own comfort to keep me warm when I was cold. I see someone who reads poetry and creates beautiful art. I see someone who could have hurt me 100 times, but instead protected me while I slept." He turned to the Valkyrie. "And Drac, you see Kyra as weak because she's been kind to humans. But tell me, what takes more strength, scaring someone who's already afraid, or earning the trust of someone who has every reason to fear you?" Looked uncomfortable but didn't answer. "Kyra," Ji-hoon said, "would you show them your scale singing?" Here Kyra asked nervously. "In front of everyone?" "Trust me," Ji-hoon said. Kyra took a deep breath. Then her markings began to change. Instead of the dim, nervous glow she usually had in meetings, Brilliant patterns began flowing across her skin. She created images of both worlds, Earth's blue, oceans and green forests, and her own world's crystal trees and purple skies. Then she did something amazing. She made the patterns show humans and Valkyrie standing together, working side by side, exploring the stars as friends. The room was completely silent. Even Drac was staring in wonder. "This is what Kyra dreams of," Ji-hoon said. "Not conquest or fear, but cooperation and friendship. She's not weak for wanting this. She's brave for believing it's possible." "That's beautiful," Lisa whispered. "It is art of the highest level," one of the other Valkyrie said. "I have never seen scale singing so complex." Kyra's markings brightened with pride and hope. "Don't you see?" Ji-hoon continued. "We've been so worried about our differences that we forgot to look for our similarities. Both our peoples create art. Both our peoples love learning. Both our peoples want to explore and grow." He looked around the room. "Yes, we look different. Yes, we have different strengths. But that's not a problem. It's an opportunity. Kyra's people are strong and brave. My people are adaptable and curious. Together, we could do amazing things." "Commander," Hannah spoke up, "but how do we overcome the fear?" "The same way Kyra and I did," Ji-hoon said. "One person at a time. One friendship at a time. One act of trust at a time." Kyra stepped forward. "Ji-hoon is right. I was sent here to make you fear us. But fear only leads to war. Respect leads to peace." She looked at her own people. "I am not weak for caring about humans. I am strong enough to see past their differences to their worth." Then she looked at the humans. "And you should not fear us because we are large or have claws. You should judge us by our actions, not our appearance." Drac was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Perhaps there is wisdom in what you say." "So what happens now?" Hannah asked. Ji-hoon smiled. "Now we write a real peace treaty. Not one based on fear or intimidation, but one based on mutual respect and cooperation." "And how do we maintain that cooperation?" Tom asked. "We start an exchange program," Ji-hoon said. "Scientists, artists, teachers, people from both worlds living and working together. Learning from each other." "You mean like you and Kyra have been doing?" Lisa asked. "Exactly like that," Ji-hoon said. Hannah looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, we were going to establish a joint research station anyway. We'll need liaisons from both species to run it." Drac nodded. "Such a position would require someone who understands both cultures." Ji-hoon and Kyra looked at each other and smiled. "Are you interested in a long-term assignment?" Hannah asked Ji-hoon. "Very interested," Ji-hoon replied. "And you, Kyra?" Drac asked. "Would you be willing to continue representing our people?" Kyra's markings glowed bright with happiness. 6 months later, Ji-hoon and Kyra stood in their new laboratory on the joint research station. The space was designed for both species. High ceilings for Valkyrie height, warm temperatures for human comfort. "Look at this data," Kyra said excitedly. Her markings showing patterns of scientific discovery. "The crystal trees from my world could help purify water on drought-stricken planets. And human agriculture techniques could help feed colonies on worlds like yours," Ji-hoon added. They had become the best team on the station. Kyra's strength and analytical mind combined perfectly with Ji-hoon's creativity and adaptability. More importantly, they had become the proof that their two species could not just coexist, but thrive together. Other humans and Valkyrie had joined the station over the months. At first, there were still fears and misunderstandings. But Ji-hoon and Kyra helped each new arrival see past the surface to the person underneath. "You know," Kyra said as they worked side by side, "I used to think my appearance was a curse. Something that would always make others afraid. And now? Ji-hoon asked. Now I know it doesn't matter what I look like, Kyra said. What matters is who I choose to be. She created a scale-singing pattern that showed their two species working together. Among the stars, exploring new worlds and making new discoveries. Besides, she added, with what Ji-hoon had learned was her version of a smile. Someone once told me that different doesn't mean bad. It just means interesting. Someone very wise, Ji-hoon said, grinning. Outside their lab window, ships from both worlds came and went, carrying the first generation of true cooperation between humans and Valkyrie. And in their shared quarters, because they still chose to room together. No longer for warmth, but for companionship. Two friends from different worlds continued to prove that understanding could overcome any difference. No matter how large or small, how scaled or smooth, how frightening or familiar. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but they would explore it together.